All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Designing New Dragons. Join us as we may be creating your new favorite character. So, today we are going to be making our first of three, count it, three, G.I. Joe characters, the last of the original trilogy of Essence to 20 games. And then after we're done with these, we're going to try and do some crossover characters because I think it sounds fun. If you saw last week's video, because right now, just because of how health is working, I'm down to one video a week, but I'm still putting videos out. You saw last week's video, we talked about G.I. Joe and how it kind of differs from both Transformers and Power Rangers, despite the fact that all three of them use the Essence 20 system to kind of function and as the kind of bones of the system. So today, we're going to just kind of dive into creating a G.I. Joe. So without any further ado, there's something that should look familiar. Our character sheet. This is the G.I. Joe. And so as you can see, instead of character name, you just have your code name. Because that's how everybody knows. No one actually thinks, well, I guess Duke could be somebody's name, but like Hotshot and Snake Eyes and all that stuff, nobody thinks that their parents actually named them that. So it is a code name. We will deal with our code name later. But we are going to be following the character creation rules in the G.I. Joe core book. So when you go to chapter 2, create character creation. Starts with step 0. Discuss with your GM and other players. We don't have to do that because there are no other players. We're not playing. We're just building characters. Step 1, character concept. Again, for designing new dragons, I kind of go a couple different ways. Sometimes I will start with a concept and start doing and go from there. A lot of times, though, because these are systems that either I've never played or are relatively new to me, I like, at least with my first one, to not have an idea of a character I want to play and just kind of let the system itself lead me and get inspired by it. So that's what we're going to do. And this is another one that I personally think they do things a little bit backwards, because after character concept, they go to step 2, set starting essences. And so they basically tell you to take your 12 essence points and put them into your character before choosing your influences, your origin, or your role. And for me, that always feels a little bit backwards, because even if I do have a really solid character concept, when I choose my roles and origin and influences, sometimes that can change mechanically how I envision the character playing. Like, something that tends to be really, really common is, for me personally, is I don't tend to build a lot of like strength-based characters. I tend to build dex-based or fast characters. And so my character concept, most of the time for characters I'm going to play, is going to be someone that's fast. Especially if they can dual wield. I really like dual wielding. I think it's fun. So I will, if I come in with just a character concept and then start putting my essence scores in, I'm probably going to give speed the majority of my essence score points, or at least a plurality of them. And then as I'm going through it, I'll go, well, I had this character idea, but I think it just fits better as this role, and this role just works better with strength-based stuff. And because a lot of the difference between strength might-based weapons and finesse-based weapons in this game is really just description more than anything else, and you're supposed to kind of customize and everything in this. It's not that strange an idea to have a character go from a speed-based character to a strength-based character, or even going to a smarts-based character, just because, you know what, I think it'll be cooler if it does this. So I'm not going to start by putting my essence scores in, because even if I come in with a character concept, I think that's putting the horse before the cart. Even when I play D&D, I know there are some people that like to kind of roll their dice and then choose their background and like their character class and everything based on what they rolled. That's how they did it in way old school RPG days. I'm not a fan of that. I don't quite like the randomness for a character I'm going to be playing a lot of, unless that's my intention going in. Like, I have created random characters as kind of like an acting exercise for myself, where it's like, well, I'm just going to play whatever the dice give me. And that can be a lot of fun, but I don't think it's particularly a good way to always make characters. So anyway, that being said, we're going to go to step 3, which is selecting influences. So let's look at the influences. And again, the Essence 20 system is kind of unique in the idea that you are almost encouraged to take multiple influences to kind of put them together. And unlike Transformers, where you have your perk and then like possible hangups that are built into the influence, where you get to pick from like 3. This one, each influence has its own personal hangup. And the way that hangups work is, if you choose a single influence, you get the influence perk, but you don't get any hangups. For each additional influence you take, you get the perk, but you also have to take a hangup for each additional influence. So I tend to prefer to start with 2 influences. I think that gives you a nice kind of blend of perks, and it gives you a hangup, and I think it's really important, just in general, to have interesting characters, to have something that they're bad at. You know, the thing that makes characters interesting is very rarely the thing that they are the best at. It is the thing that they struggle with. So, that being said, the influences that we have are adventurer, artisan, athlete, checkered past, gearhead, green shirt. What is green shirt? Oh, basically you're already in a military unit is what a green shirt is. So I'll read the description so it makes more sense. So your first mission as a GI Joe is not your first mission with GI Joe. When a GI Joe operation needs quantity over quality, they reach out to local military allies for reinforcements. Although the unofficial green shirt moniker slapped on anyone from a military force outside of GI Joe can turn the called up to the big leagues feeling into a humbling experience, you gained valuable insight into how G.I. Joe operates as an organization and how the best of the best conduct themselves. So basically, you got your SAG card. If anyone doesn't know, getting your Screen Actors Guild card is a nightmare. Because the Screen Actors Guild has made it that way. There's this really, really strange rule that you have to follow. Basically, the contract that any company signs to use Screen Actors Guild talent requires them to exclusively use Screen Actors Guild talent. They're not allowed to hire non-union actors. Now, in order to get your Screen Actors Guild card, you need to be a part of 3 Screen Actors Guild productions. And you should already be seeing the problem with that. They're not allowed to hire you, but in order for you to become a member of the guild, you have to be hired when they're not allowed to hire you. And so there's always this tiny little caveat of, if there's not enough guild members, you are allowed to hire non-guild members for particular roles. They're not allowed to be leads or anything like that. Generally, the way you get your SAG card is you're an extra in 3 movies. And because so many people want to be a part of the Screen Actors Guild, because it is the only way to make a living as a film actor in the U.S., you have to fight tooth and claw to get these extra roles. And not all extras are going to be non-union members. There are going to be union members that are extras because that's the work that they can get, and they get precedent over you. So anyway, so this basically what Green Shirt was you got called up when they didn't have enough Joes, and now you're like, all right, now I get my G.I. Joe card. I think that's cool. I might have that in there. So we have Green Shirt, and then the rest of them: martial artist, nomad, professional, small town roots, specialist, and thrill seeker. I think I have to have Green Shirt just because I love that. And I have never been in the military. I never would have qualified to be in the military. I'm a messed up person. And I was 19 when I was diagnosed with my first set of mental illnesses that would have made it so I would never have been allowed to enlist. And I didn't get my degree until I was in my late 20s, so I sure as heck was not going to get commissioned. But my brother's former Army, my dad is former Air Force, my grandfather was Air Force, my mom's parents were Navy, my mother's brother was Navy, my dad's brother was Army. Like, I have so much military in my family that half of my family used to speak almost exclusively in abbreviations and what do they call it when you substitute letters for phrases? Whatever that word is that I can't think of right now because I'm in a hell of a lot of pain because I somehow pulled something in my lower back. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very familiar with the military. Have quite a few friends in the, either in the military or who used to be in the military. And half my family was in it. So yeah, we're going to start off with a Green Shirt. So yeah, let's go influences. We're going to start with Green Shirt. Oh, and this one, look at this. This one I can actually put multiple lines in. That's very nice. So Green Shirt, and we'll figure out the next one. So what else do we want for our background? Because your Green Shirt's effectively former military. Could go specialist. Because that's an extremely common in the military in general. In general, you will be specialized. It doesn't matter. I guess some officers can technically be non-quote unquote specialist where their specialization is command. But unless you are commanding a large group, you will be specialized in some way, shape, or form. So that would kind of work. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit boring for me, but we'll get that. So we've got Green Shirt and Specialist in there, which is very nice. So let's start with, since I'm on Specialist right now, Influencer perk for Specialist. You choose this influence, select a skill you have a specialization in. Once per encounter, when using that skill outside of combat, you gain an edge. We will come back to that perk. I'm just going to... Wow, this is different. So there's perks, background bonds, training and qualifications. There's gear description. No, this is a very different character sheet. I've never actually used the G.I. Joe character sheet. This is very, very different from what I'm used to. How are we gonna do this? I'm just gonna put a note in perks here. Specialist influence perk. Choose specialization skill. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll deal with that in a second. And then the hang up for the specialist. Your natural gifts and vast experience in one thing have left you knowing virtually nothing about other skills. Once per session, when you would roll with a snag, you automatically fail instead. You can suggest when this comes into play, but it is your GM's call. That's a really interesting hang up. think I've got something on my eyelash. It's driving me nuts. Wow. Here we go. Okay, a little bit better. That's interesting. Let's see what the other hang up is. So, perk for the influence. Having experience supporting G.I. Joe on missions, you tend to see helping your teammates as part of your role in the team. When you lend assistance, your ally gains both an edge and an upshift one. That's really cool. I like that. So, we're going to go here. We're going to go... I can just copy this. Do. And it didn't copy the upshift. There we go. So shift 1. That sucks. On their skill test. That is really, really useful. Damn, I like that. And the hang up, you have trouble seeing yourself as an equal on your team. Other Joes can't lend you assistance on skill tests unless they also have the green shirt influence. Interesting. So the hang up for the green shirt is kind of almost like an inferiority complex where you just you feel that all these other Joes are G.I. Joes and you're just kind of the dude going around with it. Dude, that hits a nerve. Wow, that's imposter syndrome. The game. Ooh, I have to use that. Yeah. So hang-ups. We're gonna put hang-ups here. I'm gonna see if I can't put the whole thing there without it looking really bad. Come on. Okay. Let's go boom, 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 boom. Okay. Also, green shirts. There, we can put that whole thing. All right, cool. I like that. That is, whew, damn. That hurts. I cannot tell you how many times, despite the fact that I was overly qualified a few times, that I would be put on part of a management staff and I would still feel like I didn't have the right to be there. And then I'd work with the management staff for like 4 months and realize that half of them were morons that didn't deserve to be there for reals. And I would still feel like I was an imposter as I was doing their jobs for them. So yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy. We are a green shirt specialist. We haven't figured out what we're a specialist in, but as we pick our origin and role, I think that might help us start figuring out where we're going. So, moving on. Let's check out Origins. So, Origins, again, in G.I. Joe are going to be very different. Okay, so origin branches. G.I. Joe recruit from militaries around the world as well as exceptional civilians. The following branches categorize the various origins for each of the origins. Oh, okay. That's what it is. I'm sitting here, it just had origin branches. Army, Navy, Air Force, and non-branch specific origins. So when I'm doing this, I'm looking at a PDF, and the PDF has bookmarks in it. So one of the things I really like about the SS20 stuff is they bookmark their stuff really, really well. And normally, if I expand a bookmark for like influences or origin, like in influences, it lists all the different influences that I can just click on the one that I want. For origins, it only lists the branches. So I was like, wait a minute, are there only 4 branches? 5? Nope. There are 4 origins? Oh, there's tons. So if we go Army, we have soldier origin. Oh, I see what this is. So if you come from the army, you get the soldier origin. If you come from the navy, and they have a bunch of different kind of modifications for it, but for the most part, the mechanical aspects of it are going to be the same. Um, so if you come from the army, you're a soldier. If you come from the navy, you're a sailor. If you come from the air force, you're a pilot. Which is 100% not true because there's a lot of non-pilots in the air force. What else do they have here? Tactical air control, pararescue, special reconnaissance, airborne intelligence, airframe designer, and then scientific application specialist. Interesting. Um, Again, my dad was Air Force, and he was if I remember correctly, he was Strategic Air Command. I believe he was Tactical Air Control. Because at one point, the story changed about what he did in the military. All we know is that he had top secret clearance and he couldn't tell us everything. But every so often, he would tell us a few things. And the closest I could ever understand is I think my dad might have been a combat controller. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, combat controller, CCT. So we think he was something similar to a combat controller. Because he did, he was part of Strategic Air Command, but he was on the ground. And he also did something involving radios. So, yeah, beyond this, I don't know. But I personally really love the combat controllers, just in general. Like, as far as special forces are concerned, like Navy SEALs, super cool. Everybody loves the Navy SEALs. Or Marine Recon, amazing, unbelievably cool people. But nobody ever talks about the combat controllers, and they literally they can control like an airstrike and everything behind enemy lines. They're massively cool people that nobody talks about. So, combat controllers for the win. If anybody watching this is former military, especially if you were in any of the special forces, of which there were tons. Green Berets are one of the Army Special Forces. Each branch has multiple different versions, and in general, we tend to kind of glorify one of them. Like, again, the Navy SEALs, everybody knows about the SEALs, and SEAL Team 6 and all that stuff, and I'm not saying they're bad or anything like that. But if anyone is a vet, or is active duty, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know if we actually have service members that watch my stuff. Or if you guys are playing, D&D and stuff, in other countries on, forward operating bases or anything. I think that's super cool. So yeah, anyway, going back here. So, Air Force, you have the pilot origin. And then non-branch specific is first responder. Again, we're going to be one of the branches of the military, but we can modify a few of these things to fit in it, because like one of them, so non-branch specific origins, first responder, if you were any kind of first responder, if you were a medic, you would probably be there. They actually give military examples, like for army firefighters, army chaplain, army working dog handler. For the Navy, Coast Guard aviation survival technician, rescue swimmers. See, that's another super cool job that I've never heard of. Navy damage control crew, that essential. Navy divers, Navy minesweepers, that's a dangerous job. Marine search and rescue. Air Force pararescue, fire control teams. Pararescue is another one that's super cool, but it's a little bit more well known than the combat controllers. So yeah, we have first responders, we have covert ops, which I like covert ops in general. I think that's cool. Intelligence. One of the oldest jokes I remember my dad ever telling me. So you want to know an example of an oxymoron? It's things like jumbo shrimp or military intelligence. That being said, My dad was part of military intelligence. That's what Strategic Air Command is. So I think he gets away with insulting them. I don't know. Um, and I'm a big fan of like spy stuff. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is called Burn Notice. Jeffrey Donovan plays a burned spy, and I am currently rewatching it. I think I'm on season 3. It is probably one of the best TV shows that I think it was TNT did it, or maybe it was UP. I can't remember what station it was. It's one of the best TV shows that was ever made. But it's so interesting, and the characters were really really interesting and really really complex. And they did do really interesting the things with the characters, where like Mike and Sam would butt heads every so often, and it didn't feel like season 3 of Picard, where it was just, now we're going to turn the conflict switch on, and now you hate each other, then we're going to turn the conflict switch off, and now you love each other, kiss. Like you would see them kind of take each other for granted and then realize that they were taking each other for granted, or you would see them kind of like put their feet down when they would have ideological differences that neither one could budge on. There are parts where they actually fight, and they're best friends throughout the entire series. They're best friends, but there are situations where just because they're different people, they would eventually get into positions where one of them would go, no, this is where I'm putting my foot down, and the other one would go, no, you're not putting your foot down, get the hell out of my way. And they'd have to and it was, oh, it's really good, watch it, it's great. It's on Hulu and a bunch of other things. So anyway, intelligence, I might do intelligence, because that, I'm building this character in my head and how they became a green shirt and everything like that. Like, it'd be really easy to say that they started as a green shirt just because they needed someone to kind of shoot stuff. But they could also have just been brought in as a green shirt because, if you were in intelligence, it might have just been that on this particular mission they didn't have an analyst that they could use from G.I. Joe, and so they were outsourcing their analyst things, and so that's, you very easily could come up with an interesting idea for why you would have an intelligence officer or covert ops officer that started off as just a green shirt that they just brought in because they didn't have enough Joes. So yeah, with covert ops, intelligence, and then non-military, civilian origin, engineer origin, scientist origin. And again, all of these, they still have examples. Like for the scientist origin, they have cyber electronics warfare officers, signal core nodal network systems installer maintainer. I think that's an internet tech. I would assume, in my life I've never seen that collection of words put together in that order ever. For scientists for the Navy, Coast Guard, oceanographer, or meteorologist. Which, by the way, the Coast Guard is not a part of the Navy. The Marines are technically a part of the Navy. Don't ever tell a Marine that, but Marines are a part of the Navy. The Coast Guard are their own branch, though, I thought. So I don't know why they keep it. Whatever. Naval bio warfare researcher, naval forensic toxicologist, CSI kind of stuff there, Marine Corps warfighting laboratory researcher. Man, these names are so cool. And then for the Air Force, scientific application specialist, directed energy researcher, and biomedical laboratory officer. All right, let's figure out what we want for our origins. So, I think I definitely want it to be military because I was a green shirt, and I have a soft spot for the Air Force just in general. So I might go with the pilot, but again, I'm not that I don't like pilots. Pilots are great people. They pilots are arrogant, to be blunt. But they're an essential part of the Air Force. But I think I would prefer to be a non-puppet pilot because the vast majority of the Air Force is not pilots. There's so many other things that you do in the Air Force that does not involve sitting in a cockpit. So I don't think I want to be a pilot. Do they have... All right, so other origins in the Air Force. So tactical air control could use the Army soldier origin. So if it wanted to be basically a combat controller, and that would make sense for why they brought a green shirt in. So here, let me read their description of what a tactical air control is. Tactical air control is the vital lifeline between ground and air forces. Officers insert with special forces teams and provide precision target guidance to paint an enemy target with a laser or other mark so that air forces know exactly what targets to strike. For example, high altitude sniper barrel roll supports allies on the ground by taking to the sky and firing on unsuspecting enemies from the high ground. So that's a very, very limited version of what a combat controller does. Like in this, they're basically just saying that they're trained to shine a laser pointer at things. And while, yes, 100% a combat controller can do that, so can most infantrymen. Painting a target is a remarkably simple thing to do. You literally just point... It's a special laser pointer, but you just point a laser pointer. And a lot of the times you have multiple laser pointers pointing at the same thing to give a much better target. Again, combat controller, they're 100% trained to have effectively create their own kind of command tower and become an air controller, like in the middle of a forest or behind enemy lines, and they can coordinate they can coordinate air movements, and they can call in fire strikes, and they're basically their own little operational thing, and they're really, really cool. I think I want to be... Because I think that would kind of make sense for what you would need a green shirt. Because maybe you don't... Because again, combat controllers are an extremely specialized field. And it requires learning a lot of different things. You have to understand the aircraft in general, how they can fly, where they can fly, what they need. You need to understand air traffic control, because that's one of the things they do is they're a mobile air traffic control station. So you need to be able to speak to the pilots and understand all the pilot jargon and everything that they need to do to be able to fly their incredibly complicated planes. And then you also need to be really well versed in kind of covert operations and other things like that, because most of the time you're going in places that you're not supposed to be. And you also have to be trained in combat, because as soon as the people realize that there's someone just calling in strikes, the bad guys are going to try and kill you. So I think it would make sense that in a specific situation, the Joes would be like, we need a combat controller, and we don't have anyone with that very, very strange and specific set of skills. So we would bring in an aircraft, a combat controller. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So they say use the Army soldier origin for a tactical air controller. I want to see... I'm going to look at the Army soldier and see what it actually gives us. So increases speed or strength by 1. And then what is... Your origin benefit if it shoots. You're trained in all weapons other than unique weapons. So basically it just gives you... you can use any weapon that you want. Which I don't think fits with the idea I have for this character. So I'm going to look at the covert ops origin and see if that doesn't feel a little bit better. This will be speed or social, which again makes sense for the character in my head. And then your origin benefit, you have a wide network of friends, assets, informants, and sources. Once per scene, you may spend a story point to add a useful ally to the scene, or declare that you have a previous favorable relationship with an NPC. You and your GM determine who they are and how you know each other, but keep in mind favorable NPC may still work for an enemy. So that's interesting. I think I might go intelligence origin for this, and we will rely on the role to give the more combat aspects of a combat controller. Just because, so if you look at the origin benefit for intelligence, Your ability to piece together clues from disparate information is unrivaled. Once Persis is seen, you may spend a story point to get a clue pertinent to a character, current scene, or current mission. Alternatively, you may ask the GM a single question with a yes or no answer. To me, that exemplifies kind of what a combat controller, because they have to look at a very unfriendly area and go, okay, that could be a runway, that could be an LZ, that I could see, if they come in from this direction, they will have cover from those there, and so they have to be very intelligent, be able to kind of look at a scene and be able to create stuff where nothing was there. So I think I'm going to go with intelligence origin. Intelligence. And then as we pick the role, we will start figuring out exactly what made them so specialized. So specialist, we're already starting to kind of understand with the intelligence where we might be looking for that specialization. So yeah. Anyway, let's write things down that we have. So we increase our smarts by 1, so +1. And then the thing that we can choose for that, alertness, culture, or technology. I'm 100% going alertness, because that sounds like a very combat controller kind of thing. Starting health is 1. That's not great. Ground movement is 30 feet. And then languages. We get 2, so language is going to be English. And it's another cool language. I have a friend. His name's DK. He has I believe he has a theater degree. But one of the things that he specialized in was accents and dialects and things like that. And he's really into words and languages and things like that. He's really, really good at it. And he became friends with this girl who's a speech therapist, who just being a speech therapist in general means you're very interested in language and that. And so they did this thing where they did this quiz kind of thing online where it was like head to head, and you would hear someone speaking, and you would have to speaking a language you don't speak, and you would have to identify what language it was. And depending on what the difficulty was set as, it might give you like a bunch of languages, like a overarching kind of blanket term for languages. Like Chinese is a blanket term for a lot of different languages. The two most common being Mandarin and I can't think of the other one right now. But anyway, and then as it got more harder, they would do very specific little languages. Well, the one that DK could never identify was, they just called it Serbo-Croatian, meaning it was either from Serbia or from Croatia, which all speak, I believe all speak variations on Russian and that, I can't remember what the root language, the Cyrillic languaes. They all use the Cyrillic alphabet. So I think just as a joke, we're going to Serbo-Croatian. Just because now anytime something goes wrong in history, because he streams, that's where I watched him do this. Anytime he's streaming and something weird happens, go, yeah, it's probably Serbo-Croatian. Or if he gets something wrong, it's like, yeah, it's probably Serbo-Croatian. So Serbo-Croatian, by the way, not a language. It is two countries, Serbia and Croatia, that have quite a few different languages in them, but they all share a root dialect. So I speak English and Serbo-Croatian, and I could barely. I used to know a few words in Russian because I sang it. I can't remember which composer. We in college we sang some Russian composer, and so I had to learn how to read Russian. And I didn't actually learn how to read Russian. I learned how to read the IPA pronunciation of Russian. And I tried, because every song we would sing would have the Russian, or I think it was Polish actually, but it'd have the actual Cyrillic text, and then would have IPA underneath it, which is International Phonetic Alphabet, for those of you who don't know. And then underneath it would have the English translation, because you got to know what it is you're singing about. You can't just say words. And so, yeah, all of our sheet music was you'd only have like 12 to 16 measures of music on a page, because underneath each staff they had to put 3 lines of text. So anyway, yes, Serbo-Croatian is not a real language, but I find it hilarious. So we got that, and then our origin benefit clued in. Don't know where we are going to put this in here. We have pucks, background bonds, training and qualifications, and then gear, description, notes. I think I'm going to put in background bonds because I never put background bonds in, so we'll do that. Really? Boom, 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 boom. So, there's not a background bond, but they don't really give you a place to put your origin benefit. So yeah, that is our origin. Moving on. Normally doesn't take that long to do this, not to pick an origin. I just got lost in the weeds of my memory. So let's look at roles. So roles in G.I. Joe, we have Commando, Infantry, Officer, Ranger, Renegade, Technician, Vanguard. I'm going to see if they actually... Alright, so Commando, Shadow Operatives who specialize in infiltration, deception, and catching targets off guard. Rogue. Infantry, quintessential soldiers who regard the battlefield with gallantry and tenacity. Fighter. Officer, leader on the battlefield. Tacticians off it, always focus on those in their charge and the objectives they must fulfill. Bard. Ranger, need I say more? Dangerous warriors exceed in their environment of expertise and learn to apply their training outside of their element. Interesting. Renegade, loose unit is tough and dangerous as a rudder train. Misfits recruited G.I. Joe so Cobra doesn't get them first. Barbarian. Technicians, savvy experts in their field and equipment specialists supporting their team or turning themselves into war machines. That could be fun. And technician is your magic user. Anytime you have a setting that doesn't have magic, if you ever want to take a magic using class and turn it into and use it in a setting that magic doesn't work, just call technology, because a lot of the technology we use was magic 100 years ago. Being able to talk to someone on the other side of the planet by just tapping on your ear. Magic or wireless Bluetooth headset. So yeah, and then Vanguard's the last one. Heavily armored fighters absorbing open. It's the Paladin. And directing traffic from the front line. Vanguard sounds interesting, cool. Because again, if we're doing combat controller, let's see what they do. So let's start with technician, because I think that would be super, super cool. And again, the idea of a combat controller kind of creating their own airstrip and their own airport out of nothing, that would be kind of cool. So let's see what they can do. You get smarts and speed. I like that. And then trained in light armor and in computerized battle dress, and qualified in impulse armor. I'll have to look into that. And then weapons. You're trained in ballistic, element, and explosive weapons. I'm liking that too. The Yojo, and then primary tech. First level, choose the type of advanced technology you employ most frequently. Armor, drone, gear. You build tools and technology into encasements in your armor. Metal encasements double as plating for your own protection. Iron Man. Okay, drone. You may work from the sidelines, but you directly influence the entire battlefield by way of robotic companion. You gain a limited drone pet. That, to me, I like, from a cool perspective, I like the armor better. Drone, to me, feels a little bit more combat controller. And then gear, you act as a hub for your unit's wireless technology and a point of contact for units around the world. You gain an integrated HTB access pad as personal gear, as well as a standard or limited kit. You can choose a standard or limited upgrade of any type as a free upgrade during equipment assignment and requisition. That's cool. And then there's a fourth one because it was on the next page. Weapon. I believe the best weapon in your unit is your brain. And the second best weapon you use is whatever offensive contraption you put together this week. I like that. You're qualified in a limited weapon of your choice and can choose a standard weapon upgrade as a free upgrade during equipment. Oh, damn. So, weapon would be cool. I don't think it fits with this character. But it would be very, very cool. This is interesting. In addition to your primary tech standard functions, you can use your primary tech to make technology skill tests. For example, if your primary tech is armor, you can use your armor's integrated weapon to make technology skill tests at a distance equal to your integrated weapon's range. If your primary tech is gear, you can make technology skill tests at almost an unlimited range through your HTB access pad. That's interesting. All right, so the first thing we need to do, we also have to choose a focus. I'm going to choose my primary tech first. So, drone is the one that makes the most sense to me for a combat controller because a drone would be unbelievably useful at being able to direct air traffic, at being able to get a better vantage point to know where to send people. So that's one thing. I also like the idea of having a drone. Gear is the other one that could be interesting. I don't think it fits with the character really. And then armor. In a suit of standard or limited light, medium, or heavy armor is a personal gear. All right, so armor. You build your tools and technology into encasements in your armor. See, I could totally see, because I really like the armor idea, I could totally see having been in the field so many times that they and having to be on the move as a combat controller as opposed to being able to actually set up, that they actually built their air traffic control tower into their suit to make it easier to be on the run and still directing. So I could totally see armor, and I really like armor. So you're trained in heavy armor, gain a suit of standard or limited light, medium, or heavy armor as personal gear, and can choose a standard armor upgrade as a free upgrade during equipment assignment or requisition. You also gain one standard sidearm weapon as an integrated weapon when wearing your primary tech armor. I think I want to go armor, guys. So I'm going to, let's go roll. We're definitely, Vanguard, yeah, it could be cool. I can't go away from technician. So we're going to go technician. And primary tech is going to be armor. So I'm going to go armor technician. And then we have to choose a focus. So expert, think tank, or tinkerer. Damn. And this is where G.I. Joe really starts to become unique compared to Transformers or Power Rangers. There's more focuses, or foci, because Transformers, I think you only ever had 2 options, and this one has 3. I don't know if does everyone have 3? Focus, Bodyguard, Heavy Ordnance, Juggernaut, Renegade. It's looking like every one of them has 3 in this. Yeah, which I like. I think that's cool. Transformers only had 2. So let's go back here, and let's see what each one does. So, Expert. Your first level ability is Feared. Increase your field. Increase smarts by 1. Additionally, choose a culture, science, or technology specialization if you don't have a rank in this specialization. This is your field. Anytime a technician perks refers to the technology skill, you instead use your field skill for this skill test, including applying your specialization bonus, if any. That's interesting. So anything... So instead of using... So effectively, with... anytime a technician perk refers to the technology skill. So effectively, that means anything that would normally use technology, you are effectively specialized in. With specialization in Essence 20 means for your skill dice, you roll all your skill dice and choose whichever one rolls the highest. It's really, really powerful. So that could be cool. Think Tank. Think Tank uses advanced, often one-of-a-kind technology to excel in combat. In addition, choose one of the following skills. Athletic, Might, Finesse, or Targeting. When making skill tests of the chosen skill, including attacks, you can use technology instead. That would be very, very cool, because targeting is a smarts, or no, targeting is a finesse thing. It's speed, I mean. So I could lowball speed and still be able to shoot, because everything I shoot through my suit. So that could be cool. And then Tinkerer, their thing is Fast Learner. As a standard action, you can lower a skills rank by 1 to increase another skills rank by 1. You cannot decrease the skills rank to Untrained. This lasts for the duration of the mission or until you use Fast Learner again. That's interesting. So it allows you to basically kind of redo your skills. I think I'm going to go Think Tank. So, Armor Technician. So, Armored Technician Think Tank is what we're going to call our role. We are an Armored Technician Think Tank. We're level 1. Oh, you even have a place for this. So we can just go Think Tank for the focus. And I can get rid of that there. Cool. I'm liking... stop it. I'm actually liking the G.I. Joe character sheet better than the other ones that I've dealt with. So, yeah. So let's actually start doing the mechanical stuff. So let's start with the technician's stuff. So, starting hurt, quick study is your starting perk. Once per scene, use a free action to learn the toughness, evasion, willpower, cleverness score of a target that you can see. Very useful. Knowledge is power. So, we can do this and then go boom. Can I bold this? Will it not let me do that? We'll just leave it there. Okay. I'm not going to get too crazy with it. So that's cool. Training. Increase smarts and speed by 1. So that brings us to a 2. Speed by 1. And then science, technology, driving. Well, we're definitely doing technology because that's going to be a big deal for us. And then I'm going to do initiative for my speed. And then my qualifications and training. Okay, so got all that, training qualifications. I think I'm adding more stuff to it, aren't I? Okay, and then Yojo. Every member of G.I. Joe gets the following benefits. You get +1 health. So now I'm up to 2. Standard issue equipment qualification. Qualified with all standard land, sea, and air vehicles. And then battle cry is your thing. If your first action is a move action, you may add an additional 10 feet to your movement. Cool. We chose our focus. We chose our primary attack. I think I do want to actually So yeah, what that does is it's so for battle dress. So light armor, so battle dress. Let's go boom. Light armor. So we can go light and heavy because I get that from Tinkerer, or because of my primary tech. So if you're trained in heavy armor, gain a suit of standard limiter. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay, so we'll deal with the rest of that later, but we can go light and heavy armor. Light and heavy armor. Comma. Computerized battle dress. This is trained in really. Trained in light and heavy armor and computerized dress. I'm going to go qualified in impulse armor. Qualified, if I remember correctly, qualified means you can just get it. Or at least that's how it was in Transformers. And then weapon, trained in ballistic element and explosive weapons. So we can just go boom, boom. Trained in ballistic. Kind of cut things down a little bit. So we've got that. Got that. We got primary tech. Can use your primary tech to make. I'm not going to put that on my character sheet. It should be self-explanatory. And then for Think Tank, increase smarts by 1. This brings us up to 3. And has to be put into technology, which I'm totally fine with. He's going to be doing that a lot. And then choose one of the following skills: athletics, might, finesse, or targeting. And I'm going to put this in here. Thank you, phone. We're going to call this brain power. Brain power. Okay, when making... And I think we're going to go targeting. When making targeting skill tests, including attacks, you can use technology instead. And then I just go boom, boom, boom. Cool. So we got our perks there. I like this setup a lot better than the 3 little bubbles that they had for Transformers. It's just things fit in it much better. And yeah, I believe that is all. That's all the stuff we have to do for the roll. So yeah, moving on. We need our essence scores. We need to go back and do our essence scores. So again, we've got 12 that we can add. We will have a total of 16. We've got 12 that we can have. So I think I'm going to put 2 in here to bring it up to 3. And then I think I'm going to put 5 in here to bring that up to 8. So 2 and 5 makes 7. For social, let's put another 5. That'll give us 12. I've got 4 more that I could put in strength. I'm going to put a 2 in strength, so that's 5. 5 is 10. Oh, I've miscounted somewhere. So that's 5. 5 and 8 is 13. That should be a 3. If this works the way I think it does. So 5. Yeah, so 5, 8, and 8 is 16. That's how it works. I don't know where I got these extra numbers from. So strength. I think one of the things I want is conditioning for my strength. And what else? I think it would make sense to have athletics because of the kind of covert nature kind of stuff that they did. And I do want to go to as the skills Business scores and skills to smart, because I want to look at what technology specializations they have here. Communication, computers, engineering, explosives, specific technology. So I want to get, well, we'll come to that in a second. Let's go speed. Speed, we're already trained in initiative, which I like. We're not going to be using targeting at all because we're replacing targeting with technology. So I don't have to do anything there. Driving would be something that I think they would probably need. And then I think infiltration makes sense as well. So we've got those three. And then for smarts, I think I'm going to go for specialization under technology for communications. Specifically because, again, combat controller. And then we're actually going to go back to our influence from green shirt. Or not green shirt. It was specialist. So once per encounter, when you use that skill outside of combat, you gain an edge. So we can go here, place this with specialist. Once per encounter, when using communications. Oh no, it's just a skill you have a specialization. So it's not communications, it's technology. Using technology outside of combat, you get an edge. Cool, so that's fixed there. So you've got that, and that means I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go 6. I don't really care about the culture. We have science already. I don't know why we have science. Did I put science in there? So I had 3 things before. So I had 2 there and alertness. I think science is already clicked. And I don't actually care about the science thing. I may make this a hyper-focused. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go 6, 7, 8. Because survival would be a big thing for them as well. And then technology, because I'm going to be using it so much. That makes sense. And then for social, streetwise makes sense to me. And then I think both persuasion and deception makes sense. Because, again, being behind enemy lines, you're going to need both of those. So yeah, I think I like this. So strength, toughness is going to be bad. 2, 0, 0 gives us 12. Speed, evasion is 13. So it's going to be 3, 0, 0. But I'm going to have armor in a little bit here, so we can hold off on this until after we have our armor. So evasion, willpower is going to be 8. Stop that. 0, 0. Turns it. He's really good at willpower, and this is going to be 3. Really? 3. This is a 0. This is a 0. 13. Cool. We got those. All right. Moving on to equipment. That's a good equipment. So, for the equipment, I want to go back to character creation real quick, so I want to see what they say to do. Origin, select a role, describe your character, and then equipment. They don't even have you choose your equipment as part of character creation. I don't think that's cool. Because technically you're supposed to be making these requisition rolls and stuff like that, and I just don't do that. Because because it's just not worth it. So, equipment requisitions. You get fatigues, close combat weapon, a sidearm, a rifle, and then 2 grenades. So there's a tactical backpack, a purse of local currency, rations. And Joes receive an HTB access pad upon recruitment for the duration of time of their team, which is a hands-free networked communication research device. It's a smartphone. Or a hands-free. So I'm assuming it's going to be there. Quaver microphones and hiss filters keyed in the wearer pick up even a whisper, allowing Joes in separate vehicles miles apart to discreetly exchange information. Similarly, projection keyboard allows instant text. This is cool. The HTB access pad is very, very cool. Which I'm called to a deep cover operation could lead to dire consequences after all. Interesting. So, do they have like an equipment place? Gear. We're going to put the HTB access pad. Helps devices to spell it correctly. Alright, and then qualified equipment. Different equipment requires different qualifications. You're assigned gear you're qualified in, such as in your role. In equipment, you might need to make a choice. Limited access. Okay. Then requisition budget. Each person lists how many requisition attempts your squad can make. Adds 3 requisition attempts, so each person basically gets 3, and if it's a group requisition budget. So if we go back to our technician, we get some special stuff. So I'm trained in heavy armor, and I gain a suit or standard or limited light, medium, or heavy armor as personal gear. Now I'm also qualified in impulse armor, so I'm going to check out what impulse armor is. So impulse armor is a limited battle dress. Live with vibrating proximity setters, giving wearers advance warning to jump for cover, and it just increases your evasion. So I technically can just get impulse armor. And then I also get either suit of standard or limited light, medium, or heavy armor as personal gear, and can choose a standard armor upgrade as a free upgrade during equipment assignment requisition. And then a standard sidearm that's integrated. So if we want, we could do impulse armor. But I can get standard or limited anything. So I don't have to go with impulse armor if I don't want. And I could do momentum armor or equilibrium armor, which is a heavy armor. I can't do momentum because that's medium, but heavier. Pulse powered techno weave with all the kick of a reactor suit, theta, but none of the bulk. So that gives me evasion +3, which would be very cool. And then I can get an upgrade to that. And then there's restricted stuff. I think I'm going to go with equilibrium armor. So we'll go here. Equilibrium. Really? How do you spell that? Equilibrium armor. And we'll modify that in a second. And then we'll choose our sidearm that's integrated in it in a second here. Let's see, what does it say? You gain 1 standard sidearm weapon as an integrated weapon. Okay, so let's look at standard upgrades first. So, battle upgrades. Standard is 1, 2, 3, 4 is looking like all the standards. So, 4 standard upgrades. Handling, sentry systems, silent, weather gear. So, handling, Wire mesh padding protects against animal bites and other natural weapons. Natural attacks suffer a snag on attacks. Not liking that. A component operating system to power and control upgrades. This is already computerized, so I don't need that. Noise elements spaced out or muffled to minimize noise. Bow just gets the silent trait. Or weather gear. I think we're going to go silent. So we're going to go silent equilibrium armor. So it does so with a down 4 penalty. An accelerator suit. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for right now. So what that means, since it's a silent, it actually doesn't change our toughness at all. Our toughness is still going to suck. Not 21. How about 12? Because our armor doesn't do anything. However, we do get a +3 due to our armor. So that brings us up to a 16 evasion because of our cool armor. And we're silent, so it's not going to hurt us at all. Cool. I'm already liking this. This is very, very cool. Let's choose a standard weapon. So standard sidearm. So pistol's a sidearm. Right? Yeah, I think it's just a pistol. Here, let's do it this way. I think I gotta change my page display so I can see things better. There we go, much better. Hands 1. So yeah, so it's really just a pistol is the only thing, unless I'm reading this wrong. Let's go back to technician real quick. Let's look at it. So standard tech armor. Oh, you can choose 2. Did I read this wrong? You were trained in... Oh, that's why I'm doing this wrong. Okay. I was looking at the wrong page. Train heavy armor, gain a suit of standard or limited light, medium, or heavy armor as personal gear, and can choose a standard armor upgrade as a free upgrade during equipment assignment requisition. You also get 1 standard sidearm weapon as an integrated weapon when wearing your primary tech armor. So we're going to call that our integrated weapon. And then in addition to that, okay. In addition, okay, so we've got that, and then we're going to go to our think tank. Cool. All right, no, that's everything. So let's go to our battle dress. So armor. We call this our silent. We're just gonna call this our equal armor. Classification. Shin is our silent equilibrium armor. There we go. Oh, classification, equilibrium armor, upgrades, silent, effects. Let's see what we have. Battle dress. So, armor. Evasion +3. Vision +3, and then traits is computerized. All right. Cool. And then weapon, we're going to go pistol. Integrated. So that's our integrated pistol. It's built into our cool armor. We can just go, or maybe it's like, I don't know. I haven't figured out how I want this armor to look. Go to weapons. So weapons is 2580. Hands is technically 0, but it's 1. Traits for pistol is just ballistic. Attack is technology. Effects is 1 sharp. There are no alternate effects, and we have no upgrades in it as of yet. We also get a close combat. We're going to call it a knife. There's a close combat blade. Range is reach. Hands 1, because we get this for free. And then it goes... traits for a knife is martial arts, sharp, silent. Still can't to the type. Attack is finesse. Effects 1 sharp. We don't have any alternate effects for that. What else do we get? Standard issue. Close combat weapon, sidearm, rifle, and then 2 grenades. So let's get our rifle. And that's 2 hands. And that's 100, 400. Okay. Traits are ballistic for a rifle. Martial arts in sniper. And that would be tech, because again I can replace targeting with tech. And it does 1 sharp. No alternative effects or anything like that. And then we'll just go with frag grenade, which is 2050. Hands 1. Traits consumable. Wrecker. Not Reeker. Wrecker. And frag is targeting as well, so we can go tech. And it's 1 sharp blast 10 feet. 1 sharp blast, 10 feet. And no alternate effects, no upgrades. Cool. So that's our base thing. Now, technically, we can have 3 upgrades, and I think I want to play around with some upgrades. So normally, the way that upgrades work is you have to roll for them. And again, we already got the silent upgrade for free. Because we are in armor, I want to put 1 more upgrade into our battle dress and something that's a little bit better. So normally you would get 3 tries, and the way that you get the upgrade is depending on the level of your armor and the level of the upgrade. You have to roll a specific target number. I'm going to limit us to just 1 upgrade, in the idea that statistically, if you get 3 shots to get this, you're almost guaranteed to get it. And I don't really have that many other things that I want to do weapons-wise. I want to really focus on the armor. Because again, battle dress is one of the unique aspects of G.I. Joe. So I want to focus on that real quick. So, that being said, we already did standard. If we look at limiting ones. So you could have Dome Generator. It's a free action once per scene. Double the battle dress's effects until the beginning of your next turn. This upgrade can be taken multiple times. Increase the number of times it can be used. So Dome Generator would basically increase my evasion by 3. Energy resistant, radar tempered camo. Oh, while wearing this armor, you appear invisible on radar location devices. That would be very useful for a combat controller. Reflexes, increase the evasion bonus. It's free action. That could be cool. Spiked. No, I don't like that. Energize is one of the ones. Oh, but that gets into restricted. So let's look at upgrades. Because the one we are is limited. And so limited with a restrictive, what would the DC for that be? Okay, so upgrade equipment is limited. The upgrade is restricted. It would go to prototypal, which prototype is difficulty 20. But I'd be making a tech roll, and I have specialization. I have a communication specialization, so if I could call it communicative. But I also get an edge on tech rolls once a scene, so I think prototypal might be pushing a little bit. Let's stick with limited for the upgrade. So acclimating, ignore the penalties of wearing inappropriate attire in your current environment. That could be useful. Dome Generator, I think, would be very, very useful. And again, something that would make sense for a combat controller to be able to just kind of pop the dome on and be good. Or it could just go reflexive, which just gives you a bonus to evasion overall. As a free action once per scene, double the battle dress's effect until the beginning of your next turn. And I would basically, because I have 3 speed, I would have 1 free action per turn. I think I'm going to just go with reflexive. So we go back here, upgrade silent, reflexive. And yeah, that is the dude that we have here. Because that's limited and limited and limited. Let me see what that's supposed to be. I think that turns it restricted. So limited and limited is restricted, and restricted is only a DC 15, which is not a difficult thing to hit, especially when I'm rolling a D20 plus a D8. So yeah, overall, so alright, so we've got that. We go here, we're gonna go equivalent armor with integrated pistol, rifle, knife, 2 frag, grenades. There we go. So we're just going to call it equilibrium armor with integrated pistol, rifle, knife, 2 frag grenades. We got everything. So, yeah. Let's move on to final thoughts. And the first thing we do in final thoughts is we give this guy a name. So we have a green shirt specialist who's an armored technician think tank. They use their armor for everything. Probably what I'm thinking is when they're a green shirt, they probably had things kind of fitted to their normal gear that they had kind of custom put on their gear themselves just to make them a more effective combat controller. And then when they got brought up to the big boys, they kind of gave them upgraded from, you know, your standard kind of fatigues and armor and everything that you would wear in combat to this what was it called again? Equilibrium suit. There we go. To this equilibrium suit with all this other stuff. What are we going to call him for a code name? I think with how this character is built, I kind of like the idea of Lighthouse. And the reason I want to call him Lighthouse is because the purpose of a lighthouse is it stands in a spot and it tells ships where the bad things are, effectively. And that's the entire purpose of the lighthouse. This character, their entire purpose as a combat controller was to kind of control and tell people where things were. And maybe they got their code name because in their first thing before they got brought up, they were literally telling the Joes where the dangerous things were so they could avoid them. And directing traffic as they did it. So I kind of like the idea of his name being Lighthouse. Yeah, and that's our G.I. Joe. It's a weird character. It took a lot longer than we needed to because I kept telling stories. But overall, I'm a little bit worried about 2 health. Did I take a condition? Yeah, I only have 1 conditioning. Oh, but I also... Oh, so that actually brings us to 3 health. Cool. Because remember, you get 1 health for being a Joe. 1 health starting, and then 1 health... for my conditioning, which is very useful. So 3 health. 3 health at level 1 in an Essence 20 game is actually pretty decent. I don't want that. Stop. There we go. So yeah, this is our character Lighthouse. I think they're very, very cool. And I definitely could see eventually like upgrading the hell out of that armor to turn it into something super, super cool. You can do a little bit of driving, a little bit of infiltration initiative, but what they're real good at is doing tech stuff. And they do tech stuff all the time. So yeah, overall, it's a cool character. Like I'm into this. I think it's really great. Anyway, that's gonna be all for me today. As always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to turn notifications on. All those things are super, super important in the comments down below. What would your technician specialty be? Again, you get to choose from 4. You get armor, drone, gear, or weapons. What would your technician specialty be? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.